And now it's time for Leadership of the Leaf with Dice and Austin. Let's jump in with a cut and a light.
So welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a special edition of Leadership of the Leaf, where we're going to be talking about recent trip to the TPE convention. I was not able to go, but Dice, I'm sure you told me all about it, and I'm sure you had just an absolute wonderful time.
I did. Rubbing elbows with some of the people in the industry, chatting up with different cigar makers, manufacturers, even learning a little bit more about the industry that I didn't know before.
Well, that's awesome. Well, before we go too much experience, what are you smoking on tonight?
Well, one of the cigars that they introduced at TPE by Drew Estate is the Acid 20. Now, everyone already know Acid 20 came out last year, but this is the Acid 20 Connecticut, and it's a Toro inside, so 6x54 is the one that they, this is the TPE introduction.
Very nice. I am smoking on an Undercrown, a nice Drew Estate as well. Undercrown Shade, my favorite Connecticut's of all time right now. So you went to TPE and got to rub elbows with people. So you went to the Drew Estate. Tell me what the Drew Estate booth was like. Try to explain it, paint a picture for our listeners.
Well, the Drew Estate booth, by all means, was the best booth there. They had the famous bridge logo built over the whole set of the floor. Around the floor, they had seating areas so you can sit down and smoke. At the back side of it, they had a coffee area, or you can get beer, and they had more outside seating. They kind of made it look like a patio. And on top of that bridge was a DJ booth, and I got a picture with the DJ, and he's a really cool guy. Underneath the bridge is an actual Drew Estate store. So any kind of Drew Estate cigar you can imagine, you could purchase it from that store. Overall, best booth on the floor.
All right. So obviously Drew Estate had the best, but tell me something about the other ones. What are some new upcoming cigars booths or cigar companies booths that you went to?
Well, one of the introductions that a lot of the cigar manufacturers was not really introducing, but it's going to use a lot more, is Medio Tempio. It refers to the top two leaves of a tobacco plant, which is not rare, but it's just not as prevalent as the Ligra.
Right. Well, I mean, if you think about usually the leaves higher up on a plant, especially some sort of like bush or something, is a little bit smaller. Some may or may not know the lower leaves, the shaded leaves, some Connecticut type wrappers, binders, fillers, that sort of stuff. And then as you go up, Corojos or Habanos into the top, you get into your Maduros. Then you get even higher than that. You kind of get into your like Oscuros, black cigars. So this is even of flavor. I'm assuming they're looking for spices, full body flavored cigars and experiences.
Through my little visiting of booths, I noticed there's a few cigar companies out there that's, I don't want to say copying Davidoff with the Year of the Tiger cigar, but there's a few other companies out there that is starting with the Chinese New Year. Placencia and Vega Fina. They both have a year. They both have a Year of the Tiger cigar coming out, and they both look phenomenal.
I've seen the Placencia. It wasn't a Davidoff, because normally, if anybody doesn't know, Davidoff, if you carry Davidoff, it has to be displayed in its own case in its own separate part of the store, because that's how Davidoff works. So when I saw the Year of the Tiger, it wasn't in a Davidoff case. It kind of threw me for a loop. So that's very interesting. So you went and visited a bunch of different cigar booths. I'm sure you said you rubbed elbows with the greats. I'm sure I think Steve Saka was there, who is the founder, creator, master blender of Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust. Did you ever get a chance to even talk with him or hear him speak?
I did hear him speak, but I didn't get a chance to actually talk to him. I had a chance to talk to his rep, and exactly how you described Davidoff cigars, that's how his rep was describing Dunbarton. There was a scene in there where someone was saying, "Hey, sell me on your cigar. I never heard of your cigar brand before." And in true Steve Saka fashion, he pretty much told him to F off in his way, which I love. Because, I mean, he's doing it his way. He's not doing it the industry way. Kind of like how Tesla is doing it their way. They don't have a car company. They have a showroom. So he's doing it his way. So good for him.
Right. And the thing I kind of admire about Steve Saka, right? He was a master blender for a bigger company. Don't ask me what it was. Drew Estate. Okay. I couldn't remember if it was Drew Estate. He blended for them for like 20 years, 15, 20 years, something like that. And then left and said, I'm done with this. came back a little bit later after creating Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust, and he will repeatedly tell anybody who will listen, those cigars are the kind of cigars that he likes to smoke. He'll put in his humidor. That's what his company produces. He even has a Connecticut that he blended called now I've made fuck alone. It's which in true Steve Saka fashion, he blends for himself. He doesn't blend for other people, so he just doesn't bow to the industry, which is kind of cool. I like that about him. Not a whole lot of people like that about him, but so
I did not see Padron. I didn't see them. I walked through the whole cigar area. I did not see them. So if they were there, they had a small booth, and I walked right by them, which I kind of doubt that. So I don't think they were there this year. Perdomo was definitely there. I tried to get some industry secrets, I guess you would say, from them. They were very closed and tight up about what they have coming out. What they were champagning was the 10th anniversary champagne cigar, which isn't new by any means, but that's what they were really like promoting this time around.
Okay. I love Perdomo. Perdomo, I love their bands. That's what actually drew me to Perdomo, is their bands. As anybody who will listen to me for 5 seconds and ask me about cigars will know, I buy newer cigars by the band, because they put a bunch of pride and artistry into their bands and make it look really cool and kind of eye-catching. Makes me want to try their cigars. Is there any new and upcoming cigar companies, boutique companies, like a Black Label Trading Company or something?
Yeah. If you would consider Oscar, Leaf by Oscar, a boutique, they're kind of small in the game right now. That is a very good cigar. I love the way they package a cigar. Mm-hmm. They just released a McFly and Superfly, which has pretty cool labels. Or bands, should I say. But when I visit their booth, they was really pushing a Lancero, which I thought was kind of odd. That is really,
a little bit interesting.
Yeah. The Lancero, though, because Lanceros, you mostly want the wrapper and like binder as more of your flavor profile. So the Lancero was a 2012. It was a barber pole, which I thought was interesting because it had a San Andreas wrapper, and they had an undisclosed Candela. So it's like a brown and green.
Huh. Usually sell out really good towards St. Patty's Day, which is coming up. So I'm sure if they can get those into brick and mortars and hell, even online, I'm sure those will sell pretty well coming up here. So, all right, cool. So what else?
There was 2 major events that kind of happened. I really appreciate being a veteran myself. Hiram and Solomon Cigars. Mm-hmm. They presented the Cigar for Warriors with a check for $10,000.
Oh, that's badass.
Live to Serve program. I thought that was great. That was something I don't think I ever forget seeing. I also spoke with the Cigar for Warriors rep there. His name was Trey Boring, and I explained everything about the podcast and what we were doing, and he absolutely loved it. Nothing but positive feedback. I got positive feedback from everyone, but it meant a little more coming from him, so it was nice to get that kind of love back for what we're actually doing here.
Don't know if this will take off. We're going to keep making them whether people listen to it or not, because this is what we love to do. But yeah, this is love from that cigar industry and all those professionals.
Correct. Another just veteran rep. I visited United Cigar Group, which is a huge cigar group. Well, they have like La Giana, Jose Dominguez, Atabey, Byron, Bandolero. Yeah, I mean, they're just huge. The rep there listened to the story about our podcast. He loved it so much. He gave me some cigars, which I will be sharing with you to smoke on the podcast. And at the end, he presented me with one of the stars of our troops, which is a veteran-run program that uses old United States flags and cut the stars out and put them in boxes or wherever you actually want them. But this company, United Cigars, puts them in their United Cigar box. If you buy a box of cigars, you get the star. So he presented me with one of the stars. And of course, I didn't buy a box. He just gave it to me because he liked what we did so much.
That's awesome. I love seeing and hearing, the love and the support that we give to veterans. And, I don't mind it for ourselves either. Of course,
Right, yeah.
It's always nice to get that appreciation. But all right, so what other things? I'm sure there was some newcomers to the area, up and coming cigar companies, if you will.
Yeah, there was some smaller cigar groups that I paid attention to. There was one that's the setup was a living room setup. The cigar is by Aganosa. It's a Black Star Line is the name of their cigar company, and their booth was very small, but they utilized the space very well as they set it up like you were sitting on the couch in the living room with a coffee table and an ashtray in the middle of the coffee table. So they utilized what they had, and I'm pretty sure they don't have like buku's money like Drew Estate to have such a huge booth, but they utilized the space very well. So I appreciate it. I can definitely appreciate what they offered.
Well, I'm sure they haven't been in a game as the Buku Cash that Drew Estate does and all the different brands. Cool, man. That sounds. I'm super jealous that you got to go. For all those who are listening who want to see photos of this event and videos, please go check out our YouTube at Leadership of the Leaf, our Instagram at Leadership of the Leaf, or our website, nsplume.wixsite.com/leadership of the leaf. That's nsplume.wixsite.com/leadership of the leaf, all one word.
Yeah, I definitely tried to post as much as I could. I was more awestruck going through, so I did the best I could at the time. But there was a few of the smaller cigar companies that I think you would appreciate, because I know you're a label guy. You like looking at bands, and one of the cigar companies was Vallejo. Vallejo had one of the better logo designs I've seen on a cigar for quite some time. It was pretty much a pyramid scheme, but the layout of the booth and the way everything was designed, it was just probably one of the better cigar design bands that I've seen for a while.
Yeah, I'm a sucker. The bolder color, obviously, because those catch my eye. But if I come on and inspect something, I distinct and readable, but something that actually shows me that you put some thought into, not just some last minute thing that you're like, oh, you just kind of slash something together.
Right. And with that, this next cigar company is Cavalier. It's out of Switzerland, and they're trying to make their headway in the United States market. Their band is very, very nice band, but also under that band they have a gold square. It's more of a diamond because they turn the square to the side, but it is definitely gold, like what you would put on the fancy French pastries.
Okay.
What they said is you smoke the gold and you stay gold. So that's kind of like the slogan. The band looks amazing, and yes, sir, I have one of them for you.
Oh man, I can't wait. I'm so excited. I'll definitely be sharing that one with you guys listening at home or wherever. Man, that just gets me all excited to see, new people coming up with new bands. I was always awestruck by CAO. It was on Basin one where they wrapped the cigar leaf around that as the cigar band, and they said, hey, smoke through it, and it changes the flavor. That's so cool to me. So I love people doing that sort of stuff and incorporate new ways to revive a somewhat mundane aspect of cigars.
Davidoff was there. You said CAO. Davidoff was there, but as a company, Davidoff, they didn't have anything to show. What they did is they had all their sub companies that falls under their umbrella. So HP Upman, CAO, the other ones kind of escaped me right now, but they were all there. H. Upman was pushing they have a heritage cigar. But their stick with their heritage cigar is this Brazilian tobacco that is triple fermented. I'm not quite sure the positive of a triple fermented tobacco, but it's a Brazilian one, so it's obviously going to have a different flavor profile than majority of the cigars we have out there. Because as you presented the CAO, the Amazon Basin. Yeah. Like you mentioned earlier about the Amazon Basin being a Brazilian tobacco. I guess H. Upman is going to, stick their toe in the water for that Brazilian tobacco too, and they're going to triple ferment there. So it'd be interesting.
Yeah. So CAO, it's definitely it's interesting to see that they're kind of a trendsetter. It makes me wonder, like, what other I say legacy cigar companies. What cigar companies have been around a while? Like AJ Fernandez, Arturo Fuente, Romeo y Julieta. Is there anything like that? Did you see?
Good thing you mentioned Romeo y Julieta. Romeo, they actually had a booth there. They had beer, good cigars too. They was displaying this rectangular cabinet humidor that stands like 20 inches high, and this thing was beautiful. I mean, I definitely took time and video record this, so it's definitely on the YouTube. It is like cherry red piano finish. Inside is 24, so 2 dozen bed of roses cigars. So I mean, there's only like 100 of these things made. They cost it costs like $2,000 a piece. I cannot describe or explain to you how beautiful this thing actually was.
Man, I bet if you too bad you didn't have an extra $2,000 to just throw at that sucker, right?
Yeah, I would probably come home to some divorce papers, man. You spent $2,000 on what?
I probably would have done the exact same thing though. I'm not gonna lie, I'd be like, ooh, can't. That's really cool, man. That's really cool. So they have this standing up thing, the better roses. That's really awesome. I haven't looked at the video. I've been super busy with everything else, but obviously I will go take a look at it when I get the chance. I know you sent me a bunch of video and photos from TPE, which again, super jealous that you got to go. What else was there? Was there any new sort of like new technology, new ways that the industry was trying to go towards?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that too. I went to the Rocky Patel booth, and the Rocky Patel cigars are one. I like Rocky Patel. They're amazing. I went to the booth to actually talk to them about the 60 and the Rocky Patel Disciple. And right in the middle of both those, they had the Rocky Patel white label. And unfortunately, he was all out of samples, so I couldn't really get a sample of the white label. He says it falls right in between the 60 and the Disciple. But one thing I did find interesting is Rocky Patel is branching off of cigars, still in the cigar industry, but he's branching off to, it's like I don't want to say it's a vending machine. It's kind of like a stand-up vertical cigar display stand. So the point is that you can put like tubes of cigars in this, and when you pull the first tube out, this next tube comes down in its place. So it takes up less footprint in someone's humidor or any kind of brick and mortar store. That way they can actually have more cigars for display and not take up as much real estate.
So something like a from a gas station where you pull the bottle of Coke or the bottle of water or whatever the case is out, and the next one just slides forward as long as it's stocked, obviously.
Yes, that's exactly what it does, and it allows for more facing of the product. You can see more. They can put more intricate details on the tube, of course, than they can just a single band.
Right.
But it also kind of pigeonholes them to tubes and whatever other apparatus that they decide to put in there, because you can't stick a regular stick in there. But it'd be interesting. I would like to see one of these in a brick and mortar to see how well it works, and it just is a cool concept. Rocky Patel was also moving into a premium lighter collection, and they are very nice. That market is there, as like Saint DuPont, they were there. Of course, Zippo was there. But to step into that side of the industry, I can see it's good to see that he's not just cigars; he's branching out to the whole spectrum.
All of the cigar accessories and everything else. The storage kind of interests me because, tubes, if you use a glass tube and anybody knows anything, you have to sit there and make sure that the cigar is humidified within that tube. So you have to use some sort of cork or breathable material. That's why most cigar manufacturers use cellophane, because it's a breathable material. So it makes me wonder what they're kind of use to make the cigar tube breathe, so to speak.
Yeah, it would be interesting. That's why I would like to see one in a store somewhere. Like, will they actually keep it in the humidor, or will they actually keep it outside because the tube is already a sealed container? So I'm not sure. That's a good question. The reps didn't really push that. They was just really trying to push the fact that it takes up less real estate on the floor.
Makes me wonder if it's like going to be like one of those old school like cigarette machines or something. Like, you could sit there and buy like a vending machine. You know what I mean? Like, instead of going up to the Coke machine, you go to a cigar machine. That'd be. I'd love to see one of those. That'd be awesome. I wonder how much money you'd make in a laundromat with full of one of those.
One of the guys I bumped into, I had the fortunate opportunity to bump into him way before TPE. He was out here for another convention. His name is David Blanco Cigars. Sat down at the table. He invited me to sit down at his table, and we chit-chatted up. We talked about different things in the industry. Some of his friends that are in the industry came and sat down, and I was able to talk with them. One of the funny situations about one of his friends is he actually fell in the pool at the pool party. So they was giving him a pretty good ribbon, like, "Oh, I'm glad you showed up dry this time." Like, it was pretty good. I didn't feel like he did not make me feel like an outsider, which by all means I definitely was an outsider. At the end, he offered me one of his favorite lines that he has. It's called The Nine. It's one of his best cigars that he produced, and it's got his name, The Nine, because it took him 8 tries before he finally said the ninth time is perfect.
I love that. I love those sort of stories. And you know, the thing is, these are cigar industry professionals, right? These guys live and breathe cigars and the cigar industry. And to sit there and be able to sit down and not feel like an outcast just speaks to the volume and the principle of, you know, if you go to a cigar lounge and you get outside your comfort zone and you talk to other people, you never know who you're going to meet. You never know who you're going to sit down and talk to and sit across from and share a drink with, share a cigar with, share an experience with. And you never know that person that you're going to meet and what they've been through or what they know and what they don't know. And it's just, I love the cigar industry for that reason in all aspects.
Definitely. I was shocked that it was him, and then when I went to his booth and he invited me to sit down, it was just amazing feeling. And then didn't feel any kind of way. One booth I tried to stop by the first time, but they were so crowded. It was like Starbucks on White Girl Wednesday. It was so packed. So I had to wait till like the second day before I was able to get in, and the only way I was able to get in, I had to jump in like between some people like I was playing double dutch, but I was able to talk to them. Crown Heads had a very small booth for such a tobacco industry like this. So of course I was inquisitive because Crown Heads is moving up right now. I don't know how many people actually smoke them, but I don't think
I've seen them anywhere in a brick and mortar or anything.
Yeah, it's actually pretty popular, and I've heard it brought up in other like cigar like podcasts and stuff.
Right.
But they explained that they are actually on the board for the PDA, which is another cigar industry convention. So they said they had to get a low-key booth for this one, but they said that they normally have a booth the size of like Drew Estate's booth. Interesting to hear that they're kind of on the enemy side, like just doing their own thing.
Well, I mean, it makes sense if you're on the board of directors for McDonald's and Burger King is putting on a fast food convention, you know, you're going to get a smaller booth versus if, you know, your own McDonald's is on a convention, you know, it's a different story, right? So it kind of makes sense. So let me ask you, I'm sure there's one cigar that kind of wowed you probably a little bit more than some of the others. What is there one cigar that kind of stood out that was like, oh my God, that's really cool. I really like that idea, that process, that whatever, that, you know, the story behind that cigar. Is there one that kind of stood out to you?
Yes, and it kind of got me by surprise, I guess I could say it this way, because at the end cap, like just stuck in the corner somewhere, there was this humidor that this company would come to your house, build a humidor in your house. And they can design it however they want. You can get Raiders logo or whatever design you want. And the shelves are movable. You can get LED lights. This thing was amazing, right? But the cigars they had in it, I've never heard of before. So I asked them, I was like, I haven't heard of your cigar company. And the lady was saying that it's not her company, but you should check out the booth. And when I went to the booth, the cigar company is called 1910. And this cigar, everything about it was Mexican Puro. So the wrapper, the filler, the binder, everything was made in Mexico, right? But it doesn't just stop there. It goes past that. So the box is made in Mexico. The cellophane was made in Mexico. The bands, the matches that they were offering, the match box, everything dealing with this cigar was 100% made in Mexico. And the story behind 1910 with the battles and the wars and how they banned, everything about the cigar was so historic and had such a rich history in the name. And the guy that was explaining to me, he was so excited, had so much passion when he was talking about it. He said for the first third, you should drink this tequila, second third, a different tequila. Of course, all Mexican tequilas, everything about the cigar pointed to the passion that he had and the pride that everything was Mexican Puro.
That's really cool because, I mean, you know, Puro, when you think of Puros, you think, you know, just the tobacco being all from Mexico. But, you know, if it goes beyond that and they have such a passion for being that Mexican Puro, you know, where it's even rolled and distributed and everything else in Mexico, that's to me is awesome because, you know, I believe I said it in our first episode, it takes about 300 hands to make a cigar, you know, so you think 300 sets of hands to go through all of that just in one country. I don't want to say it's unheard of, but it's very difficult to do just logistically. So to have that kind of do that, that's really cool. And then also to have the passion for your product, that just makes me want to try it even more, because I love being sold things and finding out this history and the story behind them. Because if you're a good salesman, I love being sold to. It's just, I know I'm being sold to. Yes, I understand that, but it's just kind of cool, because if they get me, they get me. But that just proves they're a good salesman. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, and just I can listen to him tell the whole story, but I didn't want to take up all his time because I'm not a buyer. I'm a podcaster, so I wanted to make way so he was able to get some POs and make some sales and get his cigar actually out there.
Yeah, that's really cool. I would love to be able to see some of these things, and one of the best ways for people to get cigars that they find that are these from small companies, go to your brick and mortar and request them. Request that your brick and mortar carry this brand of cigar, whatever the case happens to be. I did that with a black label trading company at my local place. I requested just one of the black label trading companies. I want to say it was Lawless, but I requested that, and they brought it in. Before I could even get down there to buy a cigar, they had already sold out, because I guess everybody else was looking for it too. So then they started creating, this whole little shelf space for Black Label Trading Company and Blackwork Studio and all these other, the kind of companies underneath that umbrella. And I was like, what? Do I get any credit for this? Like, I helped your sales, right? You gonna throw house gets 10%? No? All right. They didn't set me up with anything. I was upset.
That's one thing I like. A good brick and mortar you frequent a lot. You request a cigar and they actually pull it in on the floor. That's one, it's going to help out the smaller companies. Two, it's going to help you out because now you're going to get something you enjoy. This TPE company is one of the fastest growing trade shows that's come in the United States. For the past few years, it's been on the rise. It's been making a great place to perform some serious business, especially for a lot of these small manufacturers and these small cigar companies. So yeah. I appreciate being able to go this year. Hopefully I'll be able to go next year. Hopefully you'll be able to go next year. However,
I would love to.
We're going to continue to visit these best way we can.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to make that trip out there. Unfortunately, this year is just not feasible with my work and everything else. However, that's okay. We'll make it happen at some point where you and me will go to one of these things. And who knows, maybe it's when our podcast gets a little bit bigger.
Well, until then, appreciate everyone listening to this special edition. Please check out the YouTube.
Don't forget, we need to follow the podcast so we know when new episodes drop.